Hi guys, and welcome to this week's support surgery as part of Hello Future Live. So this week we're going to be focusing on virtual fairs and open days. So I will be presenting. My name's Abby and I'm the graduate intern for the Furness area. We also have Rosa on the call.
Hiya, I'm the graduate intern for the West area, and we also have Jack.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Jack and I'm the area officer for the Furness area.
So, as I kind of said already, this is going to be the support surgery on preparing for fairs and open days. And it's just going to be a quick little guide to getting the most from your day. So in this, we're going to cover both face-to-face fairs and open days and also virtual ones, which you might have become a little bit more familiar with this year. So before we get into it, on this slide, you will see a range of universities, organisations and businesses, and these are all of our partners. And we work alongside these partners with the shared goal of helping you guys progress on to higher education, whether that be a higher apprenticeship, a degree apprenticeship, or through university.
So the aims and outcomes for this session are firstly to understand the purpose of Ucas fairs and open days, whether those are face-to-face or online. So why exactly these can be useful and how you can use them. We've got explore how to prepare for open days and virtual events. So kind of what's the sign-up process for them, what maybe is useful to research before you go. And finally, to understand how to get the most out of the event. So kind of those two combined. So what are you going to be able to take away from those events and how might they be able to help you make a decision about higher education?
So first of all, we're going to cover Ucas and higher education fairs. So what are they? So Ucas and higher education fairs are where a range of employers and universities will all come together into a big hall, and they'll have stalls like you can see on the screen now, and they'll all be there to give you information about what your next steps might be. So there will be lots and lots of different people there that you'll be able to talk to. So when going to these events, even though it might be a little bit daunting that there's so many people there, you've got to remember that you have the power. So universities are there to talk to you and give you the information that you'll want when making the next steps. And it's a chance to see as well if a place is right for you, to kind of get a bit of a taster before you start applying onto them courses at university and whatnot. And as well, it's universities selling themselves to you, so you can decide if that's what you want to do. It's not about them picking you, it's about you picking them. So talking to people at these events is going to be a really important skill for the future. So it'll kind of help you to develop a little bit of that confidence of going and asking and finding things out. So these are really, really big events, and it's important that you do prepare beforehand. So the things that you might want to consider is, what specific courses are you interested in learning more about? Because there's going to be so many people there that you're not going to be able to get around them all. So kind of making a list of maybe who you want to talk to or what kind of course you want to go on to would be really useful. It's also important to consider where you might want to live in the country. So if you're not wanting to live, for example, in London, there's no point talking to universities that are based in London. So to do this, you can kind of create a bit of a short list of your top universities that you want to talk to. And you can also visit websites beforehand so you can get any information that you might need to ask any questions or anything like that before you go to the event.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about open days. So firstly, what is an open day? Well, an open day is an opportunity for you to visit the campus or city university that you are interested in applying to. You can look around facilities, you can go to taster sessions or taster lectures, you can talk to people who are already on the course, so they have a lot of student ambassadors that will be around during the open day for you to talk to. And you can also talk to people who work on the course, so potential future lecturers. It's a really, really great opportunity for you to be able to go look around the city or campus, look around their facilities, and also just get a feel for that university or higher education site. So these take place at various times throughout the year. There is a big period coming up between June and July where there will be a lot of open days happening, and we actually have, on a future slide, we'll have a couple of dates that you might want to put in your diary for some of our partner universities. But they also happen through September, October, and November. And they're generally for year 13s who are making their applications. So they're really useful just to really try and clarify exactly where you want to be applying to. But I would definitely recommend looking at the June, July times, because that means that when it comes to those September and October times, you're not rushing around a load of different universities trying to make your choice. So I'd really recommend having a look now, seeing where you could potentially go in June or July during the summer, so that you can kind of give yourself a bit of a break and spread things out. So what's on offer at an open day? There's so much you can do. You'll kind of be running around the place a little bit whilst you're going to everything. So you can go to different talks. They'll have talks about the subjects that are listed here. So finance, accommodation, talks about student life that might be quite specific to that university, or subject talks as well. So you can go to, if you're looking at a couple of different courses, you could go to a couple of different subject talks to see which ones you might prefer. There will also be tours of accommodation and also departments, so you can look around. I know that Abby, for example, will speak about this later, but I know Abby went to look around biology labs. You can look around if they have any theatres or anything like that on the campus. You can look around their facilities, as well as the campus as a whole. So are there any bars on campus? Are there any cafes, things like that? You can kind of get a feel for what the social side of the campus is like, as well as the studying.
So we're now going to move on a little bit. So we've kind of spoken a bit about the face-to-face events, but obviously with the year we've had a lot of virtual events have been taking place, and it might still be a bit of a blended approach going forward with virtual events and face-to-face events. So why should you make the most of these opportunities? So I'm just going to pose this question to Rosa, as I know that she attended a virtual open day. So Rosa, would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I went to a course open day, which meant that it was a couple of hours where we heard from various course leaders. So it was a postgrad event, and it was for a university in London, which meant that if it had been held in person, I probably wouldn't have gone. So it was really useful for me, the fact that it was online. It meant that I got to hear in a lot more detail what the structure of the course was going to be like, and also hear directly from some of the tutors on that course. And it also meant that when it came to asking questions, everyone had an equal chance of getting their questions answered, because oftentimes when you go to open days in person or HE fairs, if someone's already talking to the person you want to talk to, you're kind of waiting around a little bit. For it can be quite a while before they finish their conversation. So the really good thing about virtual events is that if you just put your question in the chat box, or sometimes there's an opportunity to ask your question before the event, there is a lot more likelihood that you'll get it answered during the session, which can be really, really helpful if you've got a lot of questions. And it can also be quite good because you might see that someone else has already asked a question that you were going to ask, which also means that you can, get through your answers quicker.
Great, thank you, Rosa. So we're going to talk a little bit now about how you can find these big university and apprenticeship days. And one really useful website is the University UK search website. So I'm just going to share a different screen with you guys. Hopefully you can see that now. So if you head over to the ukuniversitysearch.com website, you will come to this page, and you can then go on to click on Virtual Fairs North, or any of the fairs that you'd like. So as we scroll down, you can see that there's loads and loads of different events on all around the country. So we're just going to have a quick look at this North event. So as you can see, it's got the date there, so the 16th of June, the time of the event, and it also gives a little bit of information here about the event. And it's a free of charge event, so it's free for you to register and go along. So it'll have a little video for you to watch and what to expect on the day. So for example, the lobby, the exhibition hall, the auditorium and documents and all stuff like that that will be useful for you to look through before going. So we're just going to click on the register button and it will take you to this registration page. And also just quickly down here, it will show you all the people that are going to attend the event. So you can start to kind of make a bit of a list of who maybe you'd like to see, which we talked a little bit about before. So let's go student registration. And it will give you this form to fill out. So you'll just have to put stuff in like your name, your contact details, date of birth, and all stuff like that, which will be stored for them. So that is just a quick show of how to do that, because sometimes it can be a bit daunting to think about what it is that you actually need to do when going for an open day. So as Rosa said before as well, we do have open days on our website with some of the partners that I talked about before. So as you can see on screen, we've got Edge Hill, Ucas, Lancaster Uni and University of Cumbria all have open days coming up. And as you can see, some of them are online and some of them are campus visits. So it's just going to be a bit of a blended approach for the moment. So we're going to talk a little bit about virtual open days, but some of the things that I say here are probably going to be important for face-to-face open days as well. So ahead of the day, sign up in advance. So like the application form I just showed you, for any open day you go to, you will probably have to fill in a form like that. So just make sure that you're aware of that and that you've signed up. Also, it might be worth just getting on a little bit early if it is an online event, just to make sure that all your technology is going to work okay for the event. Next, plan your time. So when I showed you that website, it showed all the people that were there. And once you've signed up, you will probably get a bit of an agenda, which shows all of the times that talks might be on through the day. So make sure that you're able to go to the talks that you want to. If there's a specific course talk, for example, make sure that you're able to attend that and write it down so you know that you're not going to miss it. Research beforehand. It's really important that you do a little bit of research beforehand of who is going to be there. There is going to be quite a few different employers and universities there. So you're going to have to make a bit of a list of who you would like to talk to, because you might not be able to get around them all. So you want to get the most out of your day. Another important one, especially for virtual events, is to think about your environment. Try and be somewhere that you're going to be able to concentrate and that is quiet. This could even be just putting on some headphones so you're not distracted by whatever's going on around you. And also maybe have a drink and a snack to hand, because it can be quite draining looking at a screen all day. So just doing that will make it a little bit easier for you guys. As well, something that's important is to be an active participant. You're only going to get out of these events what you put in. So make sure that you are asking questions if you've got any, or if it's, for example, a sample lecture and a question is asked, try and think of a response to put back, just to kind of sell yourself a little bit to the university or employers. This could be the first time that you're meeting your next step. So it's good to maybe make a bit of a good first impression. And finally, what you can do afterwards. So if it is a virtual event, they might have recorded certain talks or sessions, so you can go back and watch them at a later date, or if you weren't able to make that event, then you can watch them when you're able to. And also look over your notes, and if you've taken away any links or any books or anything like that, have a read through them and make sure that you've got all the information that you wanted to get out of the event.
So just to recap from all of those great tips, so sign up in advance. This is also really useful because it might be that you sign up to something and then you realise later you can't attend. But if you're signed up, they will still probably send you all the information. So the Zoom link to potentially a recording or any other documents that were attached that you can use afterwards. So really do sign up to events as soon as you see them if they're online. Plan your time. So a thing for if you're in person, if you're going to an open day in person, if there are subject talks or if there are specific talks you want to go to, sign up to those and plan any tours that you want to go to around those talks, because oftentimes for accommodation tours, they will happen throughout the day. So if you sign up to the talks and know that that's at 2, then there will probably be a tour that you can hop onto at, say, 5 or something. So I'd really recommend prioritizing those talks when you're planning your time. Research beforehand, as Abby said, this is really useful to make sure that you're managing your time effectively and you're able to get around everyone you want to see. Think about your environment is really helpful. Be an active participant. So really do make sure that you're able to show that you're engaged, because that can also just lead to a better talk overall. If the speaker thinks that they've got a lot of people engaged in their talk, they'll do a better talk. And continue your research afterwards. This can be really helpful, especially if you've gone to HE fairs or open days in person. Oftentimes on their tables, they'll just have big fat prospectuses and stuff and big subject guides. So these are really great to kind of just nab there and then take back and sit down with a cup of tea and properly look through them in your own time, which can be really nice. And they'll have similar resources through online talks as well.
So we're now just going to quickly look back over the aims and outcomes that Rosa talked about at the beginning of the session. Hopefully now you understand the purpose of Ucas fairs and open days, whether they are face-to-face or online. They're just a really good chance for you to decide what your next steps might be and find out more about the places that you might be going on to next. As well, we've been able to explore how to prepare for open days and virtual events. So being prepared in advance, doing your research a little bit, thinking of any questions and making a shortlist are all really good ways to make sure that you get the most out of your day. So that's kind of linked on to the last one of making the most out of your day by preparing, engaging, and just overall really immersing yourself in the experience. So we're now going to move on to a couple of commonly asked questions to talk through for you guys. So first of all, Rosa, how did you make use of Ucas fairs and open days?
So I went to one big Ucas fair in Manchester that I went with school. And the thing that I found really useful was it was quite good for cutting down my long list of universities that I was thinking of applying to. Because for me, a really important thing was societies, university societies, and performing arts. So I went round quite a lot of different unis and would ask them about what performing arts facilities they had and what their societies were for performing arts, which was really good, because if I went to some of them, and bless them, obviously some of them weren't that well versed in what performing arts societies there were, but I kind of really noticed. I went to Bristol, which is the university I eventually attended, and I spoke to them a bit about kind of what was their kind of event scene like in Bristol and what did they have for the uni. And they told me about the fact that they had 2 theatres that were fully functioning professional theatres that were in their student union building, which kind of immediately for me was the thing that made me think, yeah, I really want to go there. And they also talked about the live music scene in Bristol and loads of different things, which was really helpful for me, I think, in kind of cutting down a couple of unis that were slightly more unsure about what different facilities there were for theatre.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found it really useful. How did you prepare for open days at uni, for universities, Abby?
I think how I prepared was I got the prospectuses for the universities that I wanted to attend beforehand, so I could have a little read through them. I think if you sign up online, you can request them and they send them free in the post out to you. That might be something that you guys are interested in doing. So that was kind of how I went about it. And I just got little post-it notes and stuck them on what courses I was interested in going to find out more about at university open days. As well as that, I just did a little research about the cities that I was visiting. I was pretty certain that I wanted to be in a city university, not a campus university. So just making sure that the unis that I was attending open days for could provide that for me was really important. Jack, I'm going to throw this question to you, since you've kind of been on the opposite end of a higher education fair, giving out information to young people. How do you think young people can make the most of higher education fairs, kind of being on the other side? So what are good questions to maybe come along with?
Wow, that's a really tough question. What questions to come along with? I guess they're really personal questions. It's really dependent on what an individual is looking for. So Rosa, you mentioned before about your interest in, theatre and kind of the social aspect and live music element of Bristol, for example. So I guess it's really having them questions around what you're passionate about and what really interests you. So if somebody has a real interest in sport, like having questions around sports facilities and sports clubs and societies at the university that they're talking to. There's nothing worse than somebody coming over just wanting to take a free pen and not having an interest or a question for someone. Even if, it's not maybe like your top 10, but you're interested, like at least have a couple of questions prepared. And just kind of, you see a lot of people at these fairs, and actually like being able to have a bit of the crack with someone and kind of talk about their interests is what we're there to do. So being able to have them conversations about specific subjects or courses or societies or whatever it is, but having a bit of common ground and a bit of interest, I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of shows as well, like there's no silly questions when you go into these events. Like really feel free to ask whatever you want.
Yeah.
So the next question I'm going to ask Rosa. So you've got your backpack, you're off to an open day. What 3 things are you putting in your bag, Rosa?
I'd say firstly, water. I've found going around those fairs, because especially in the big kind of the ones that are in like football stadiums or in big like conference halls or whatever, it gets really noisy, and often the acoustics mean it's really echoey. So if you're speaking a lot to people, it's quite hard. So do take some water, take a snack, and give yourself breaks as well, because it can be quite intense. And also after a while, if you've seen a lot of universities, they start to merge together a little bit. So do really, take a break, have a sip of water, maybe have like a cereal bar or something like that, just to kind of make sure that you've got clear in your head who you've been to. Another point for that is a notebook, even though it's really, and your phone. It's really useful to have your phone, because oftentimes universities will have like an iPad or something at HE fairs that you can sign up to get notifications on, but they also will be quite happy to show you how to do things on your phone and where to look on your phone to find different like society web pages or kind of different parts of the SU website or something really specific to your course. So it's really useful having a mobile device, because there'll probably be quite a few QR codes around the table as well. So that's a really useful thing. But I personally am quite a fan of an old-fashioned notepad and pen, just because oftentimes I do like mind maps and stuff when I'm taking notes, and I often scribble things, and the spacing really helps me, which can also be quite useful if you're seeing quite a few different universities. Having different places on your notepad for each university is really helpful for kind of categorizing them all and separating them all out in your head. So our final question then, Abby, was your mind changed after a fair or an open day?
So yes, my mind was changed. So when I was studying my A-levels at sixth form, I was very torn between taking 2 very different paths as I kind of went on to higher education. So the first path that I was kind of leaning towards was I really wanted to study history. I really liked history at A-level and at GCSE, so I thought that would be a good route. But as I kind of moved through my A-levels, I started to find that I was getting more and more excited about biology. So these were 2 completely different subjects, really. I don't think you could get any more different. So I went to the University of Leeds Open Day, which is where I ended up going to uni. And I decided that I would look around both the history department and the biology department. So I went around the biology department first, and they had all of their labs set up, so like the state-of-the-art labs. They had experiments going on that you could get involved with, ports going on, and all really exciting stuff like that. So I was going through that and thinking, yeah, I really like this, like this is good, but I'll keep an open mind for when I go to the history department. And when I got to the history department, it just wasn't as exciting for me. There wasn't as much going on. And kind of from that, I was thinking, well, I seem more excited about biology, so maybe that's the path I should choose. And without going to that event, without going to that open day and looking at both options, I don't know if I would have made the same choice. So I'm really glad that I was able to go and see both and see which I was more interested in. So it was really helpful in making me make up my mind of what I wanted to do next. So that is the end of today's kind of main talk. We do have some online resources for you guys available on our website. So if you head over to www.hellofuture.ac.uk, you will come across our website where we have got some online presentations that you can watch. We have e-courses, which are really useful in helping you to gain further understanding. And you will get a certificate on completion of this, kind of show that you've done something a little bit extra. As well, on our website, there will be a little chat with us function. So if you click on chat with us, it'll just pop up at the bottom of the screen. Then you will be able to talk to any of the Hello Future staff members and ask them any questions that you might have about going on to higher education.
So this event has been put on as part of Hello Future Live, which is our 7-week-long festival all about all things higher education. Next week, we're taking a break. It's half term, so we're all having a bit of time off. And then the week after that, we will have our penultimate week, which will be on study skills. So we know it's exam season at the moment. It's kind of quite intense. So we want to have a couple of talks. We have a great talk from Edge Hill, and we also have a talk from us to talk about study skills and kind of how you can cope with exams, because also I think at the moment it's quite an intense time, so having some coping mechanisms might be quite useful for you. So please do come along. If you're seeing this after that time, we're on until the 18th of June, so do check out if there's any other events you might be interested in.
And that is everything from us today. So I really hope that this presentation has made you guys feel a little bit more confident in knowing what to expect when you go into fairs and open days, whether they are physical or whether they are virtual. Keep up to date with any events that we have on. You can follow us on our social media. So if you type in @HelloFutureCCOP on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, you will find us and you can see what we've got going on. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Ba-ba-da-ba.